Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. First, let me say thank you to everyone that joined in on the live stream yesterday. It was one of those impromptu live streams, and I found that those are a lot of fun. So thank you for joining in. Had a great time. I went over the live stream again after it was over to see if I missed any questions, and I picked out a few that I missed during the live stream. So I thought, let me go ahead and do a quick video so that I can share my answers with all of you, and maybe you all can also chime in the comments and share your experiences as well. So let's go ahead and just start it right off. Sharon asks, what percentage of your money in the bank should a person take out for cash on hand? Now, I cannot tell you what to do, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, you all know I'm not a financial advisor, but I will tell you what it is that I do. I try to keep enough money in the bank to cover about 3 months worth of my bills. So every single bill that I have for about 3 months, I try to keep that money in the bank. When it comes to even gasoline, when it comes to buying like fresh produce, when it comes to groceries, anything that I'm going to spend in 3 months, I want to leave in the bank. Now, I understand that this may be a difficult thing for the normal American to do, because nowadays the normal American lives paycheck to paycheck, unfortunately. But I try to keep 3 months in the bank, and I also try to keep about 3 months worth of cash at home or in an undisclosed location where you can get to it very quickly. And of course, you should already have all your preps if you're talking about how much cash you're going to keep in the bank or keep at home. So hopefully you have all your preps already. And I would say also that, let's say you had $1,000 worth of cash at home, then I would have some smaller bills. So like the largest bill that I had would probably be a $50 bill, because in reality, $50 nowadays can't get you that much. It can get you 10 gallons of gas. Think about that. All right, depending on where you live, of course. So the largest bill I would have would be like a $50 bill, and then I would have some 20s, some 10s, some 5s, and some 1s, and also a little bit of change. Because if something happened where the banks were closed and you had to revert to paying for whatever you were going to buy in cash, you would want to have exact change to pay for it. That way you don't have to give someone a 20 for something that costs 18 bucks or 17 bucks and not be able to get change back. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the second question is from B. Walker. He asks, should we buy anything that is silver now? And it was a question that he noticed in the comments. You can buy silver whenever you want to buy silver. As far as what kind of silver you buy, I like to stick to either small bars or small coins, like 1 ounce at the most. Reason, you're not really going to pay that much of a premium compared to if you buy like constitutional silver nowadays or junk silver, very high premium. Government minted coins, very high premium. So I try to stick to the generic, because silver is silver is silver. And that also accounts for silver in the form of jewelry, silver in the form of flatware or teapots that are like 92.5% silver, sterling silver in other words. Yeah, silver is silver is silver. If I were at a yard sale and I saw a sterling silver set and they were selling it for a good deal, of course I'd take out my calculator, see how much they were asking for it, see what spot is, and see if it, if it's close to spot or under spot would be even better. So yes, B. Walker, silver is silver is silver. It doesn't matter what kind you get. Same thing with gold. It doesn't matter what form it's in. It still keeps its monetary property no matter what shape it is. Little Prepper asks, when you pressure can the raw ground beef, is it still able to crumble, or is it like meatloaf? Thanks for all you do. Thank you for the question, Little Prepper. The ones that I've done, they are great for like tacos, for spaghetti sauce. It crumbles pretty good, but it's also kind of like meatball. But if you don't put any spices in it, I just put a little pinch of salt in my jars whenever I pressure can ground beef. And when it comes back out, the texture is, in my opinion, good enough to have a nice hearty spaghetti sauce. And it's also good enough to make it into tacos if that's what you want to make it into. So yeah, I recommend it. If you haven't tried it, give it a try. If you want to know exactly what it comes out like, next time that you are doing a pressure canning session for whatever, save one spot. Save one spot in your pressure canner and fill that jar with your ground beef. That way you can know firsthand before you commit to doing an entire batch. And ladies and gentlemen, this is what I love about our community, because we can always learn from each other. I've made a mistake. I've always thought, all right, I have always thought that mylar bags have a very thin layer of metal. all right, that keeps light from it. However, here Steve says mylar is not metal at all. It's polyester resin that has been heated and made into rolls of sheets or into sheets. And that makes sense to me, so thank you for that. I know this wasn't a question, but I thought I'd put that out there because I want to make sure that you get the right information, ladies and gentlemen. It's not all about me here. It's about us learning from each other. So thank you, Steve. And KJ asks, should I buy a coffee grinder? And if I do, should I grind the beans or keep them as beans? If you're going to keep them for long term, I would keep them as beans, and I would also use an oxygen absorber to put them in there. Although I do believe that if you put them in a sealed container, they will last a very long time. I've told this story before, but a couple of years ago, about 2.5 years now, I got a gift of 5 pounds of coffee beans from Billy and Dee from Frontier Preppers for Christmas. And I still have about a pint of those beans left. I just put them in the pint. Every once in a while, when I feel like having that specific coffee, I open it up. It's still good, and we're going on 3 years now that I was gifted those beans. If you want to store coffee beans for long term, and you want them to last, obviously, I would recommend that you try green beans, green coffee beans that haven't been roasted yet, and learn how to roast them. All right, there's a learning curve to learning how to roast your own coffee beans, but it's not very difficult. You just have to make sure that you're always watching over it, watch the flame and everything so that you don't end up burning them. However, I've had a very good experience with just storing the already roasted coffee beans in a jar with an oxygen absorber. Last a long time so far, going on 3 years. Philip C. asks, will learning how to make beer, wine, and alcohol be a valuable skill? Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, what businesses do a lot better during economic downturns, during recessions, during depressions? What businesses do well? All right, vices is something that's not going to go away. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having a vice. Everybody has a vice of one kind or another. As long as you do it responsibly, good for you. This is your life. You have to live it the way that you want to live it. Jack Bird asks, how much cash should we keep at home? Well, I think I just answered that question from one of our last questions that we had. And like I said, I would recommend, if I were a financial advisor, which I'm not, I would recommend at least 3 months worth of all of your expenses that you need to live. Kathleen asks, how long can I store water in jugs? Does it go bad? So if you get your water from a utility company, like a water utility, usually that water already has a little bit of chlorine in it. Okay, so if I were storing water in a plastic jug or a water container, whatever it is, I would store it for no more than 6 months. I wouldn't treat the water because the water is already treated, but I would just make sure that that container is very clean and sanitized before I put the water in it. I would put the water in it right from the tap, right? And I would seal it, keep it in a cool place that's out of the sunlight, all right? It has to be out of the sunlight, especially if you're using like a plastic container. Even if it's like a food grade plastic container, you don't want to have those in direct sunlight because the sunlight could deteriorate the plastic over time and allow it to gas off whatever chemicals were made to make that plastic. I would do it every 6 months or so. I would just rotate it out. All right, I would just rotate it out. If you have like 55-gallon drums, I would just continually rotate them out, especially during the summer months where you can use that water like for your garden or stuff like that. So I would say no more than 6 months. But what I would say is this as well. If there were a crisis and I was relying on that water that I've got stored in those containers, whether they were stored in there for only a month or 6 months, I would still run them through a filtration system to make sure that they're safe to use. Little Alaskan Home Plays, Billy Bob, well, he doesn't ask something here. He says something very good, ladies and gentlemen. I think this is important for us to understand because I saw a comment during the live stream that almost got me upset. All right, it almost got me upset. It didn't quite. I just let it go, but I'm going to bring it up. But somebody during the live stream said, these people don't understand that 90% of them are going to be dead within 2 years. Well, ladies and gentlemen, guess what? We can only do what we can do, and then we can leave the rest to the Lord. All right? Do what you can do and leave the rest to the Lord, because there is nothing that you can do when your time comes. When your time comes, it comes. But does that mean that you're going to give up? All right, does that mean that you're going to give up because somebody says, well, you're going to be dead in less than 10 years? So what? Should we give up? Should we just not try? Do we not feel like we have a responsibility to continue to live, being that we were given this gift of life? I'm going to leave it at that, but don't ever give up, no matter what anyone says or no matter what comments like that crazy comments appear during our chats. All right, ladies and gentlemen, do everything that you can do. After that, whoever you call your Lord, it doesn't matter, we'll take care of it. And Miss Diane Polk asks, hi Rudy, how do you plan on getting water if SHTF happens? Well, there's water all over the place, Diane. So for example, if it happens during the winter time, I've got plenty of snow, right? And I actually have a little system that I've developed in my mind. I haven't actually built it yet, but it's very easy to build, and I have everything that I need to build it, should I have to, that will allow me to actually melt snow and allow that water runoff from the melted snow to go directly into my cisterns under my house, all right? So if it's not winter time and I don't have any snow, like right now, there's a lot of melt off happening, and I can go to several little streams that are not very far from me at all and collect water. Keeping in mind that we will have to hump that water more than likely by foot back up to our house. However, I do have an electric bike that I could maybe use if there was some kind of an SHTF. We have a motorcycle now that we can maybe put a little trailer on if that had to be used for that. But anyways, we can haul water up here. And we do have about a month. I think it's usually late July, August, where it's a rainy season here, where I do have a 2,500 gallon tank that will definitely be filled with water during our rainy season. I mean, that tank will probably fill up in one good day's worth of rain, because we have a rainy season where, man, I feel like I'm back living in Washington State again. It rains so much during that time. But that's my plan to get water. I think the most important thing that you can do with your water plan is to have a very good water filtration system, be it a reverse osmosis that needs pressure. If you have your own pump to pump the water through your system and you can provide it electricity, number one. Number two is to have a good gravity-fed filtration system. I prefer the Berkey. Number three, if you cannot afford or you don't have a budget to get a Berkey or a reverse osmosis, then I highly recommend that water filter. And I already forgot the name of it because I'm kind of senile, but I would highly recommend the water filter that I reviewed not too long ago. I'll try to remember to leave a card up on the upper right-hand corner so you can check that video out. That is an outstanding water filtration system and at a very, very reasonable price. And the filters, the replacement filters, they're not very expensive at all. This is not a question, but I wanted to say happy birthday to Jen and Bama. All right, so happy birthday, Jen. Jen said here that it was her birthday yesterday during our live stream, so she joined us for her birthday, and I think that is awesome. So yesterday was definitely a good day. Happy birthday. From the Bitter Critter, how was the motorcycle experience for Miss AP? I'll tell you what, she's having a blast with that motorcycle. She was driving it up and down the road. She also drove it around the parking lot, as I left that little clip on one of my videos of her riding her motorcycle for the first time. And yesterday, she had a dentist appointment, and I got home from picking up Little Miss Alaska Prepper because obviously she couldn't pick her up because she had a dentist appointment. And when I got home, Little Miss Alaska Prepper said, I thought you said Mom had a dentist appointment. I'm like, she does. And she says, well, her truck is here. I said, yeah, but is her motorcycle here? So she took her motorcycle out on the highway and everything. So she is doing great and she's loving it. And I'm really happy that she's really enjoying that motorcycle because it's something she's wanted for a long time. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, it's little things. All right, the little things in life matter just as much as the big things. Right? Make sure that you find those little things that you really enjoy doing and have some fun. It's just like Brad over from Full Spectrum Survival says. He says, go to work, do some prepping, and make sure to have some fun. Always make sure to have a little bit of fun. So whatever it is that pushes your buttons and makes you smile, make sure that you do that on a daily basis. No matter how little it is, no matter how small or insignificant that someone else may find it to be. Make sure that you do that because it's the little things that matter. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave the best question for last. This is a question that I've answered several times. However, it's very important that we continue to answer this question to anyone that asks it. Reason being is because if one person's asking it, there's probably hundreds, if not thousands, that are thinking it but are afraid to ask. Now, this question actually came in the form of an email, but I really want to share this with you, and I want to go ahead and answer it to a fellow veteran. And it reads, "Hello, I am a fellow veteran, retired 20 years active. I have a question. I know everyone preps differently. I was wondering if you had a list of preps to get. I have been prepping seriously for about a year, off and on for a few years. I have some food stored away, but I feel like it has been chaotic and random. I just want to feel a little more at ease. Anything you can suggest would be greatly appreciated. Airborne." Even though I'm not an officer or was an officer, I'll go ahead and follow that up with all the way. So ladies and gentlemen, what you want to do is you want to get a piece of paper and a pencil, and you want to write down all of the infrastructures that you are dependent on. And I'll name a few just to give you a couple of examples. So I depend on the electricity infrastructure, right? When I go ahead and turn on that switch, I'm hoping that there's electricity running through the wires, and it will allow me to turn on my lights or turn on whatever it is that I want to turn on. So I'm dependent on electricity. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I have a backup for that utility that I am dependent on. Another infrastructure that I'm dependent on is the supermarket. I don't grow my own food yet. I don't grow my own or raise my own animals yet. So I still depend on the supermarket in order to go get the sustenance that my family needs. So that's another thing, another infrastructure that I depend on. I depend on the infrastructure that carries gasoline and fuel, right? Because I need to fuel my vehicles. I need heating fuel in order to keep warm in the winter. So I'm dependent on those infrastructures. So do I have a backup plan for that? An example for a backup plan for my electricity is, you know that I have a bunch of solar generators. I have solar panels. All right. I have a generator that runs on either gasoline or propane or natural gas, but we don't have natural gas available here where I live. So I have a dual fuel generator, if you want to call it that will run off of gasoline or propane. Right? How do I combat the infrastructure for fuel? I have extra fuel. I keep an extra tank full of gasoline for each of the vehicles that I have. So each of the vehicles that I have, on average, they take about 25 gallons of gas in order to fill their tanks. On average. One of them is a little less than 25. The other ones are 28. All right, so on average 25. So what do? I make sure that I have enough gas on hand to fill each of those vehicles one time. That way, if something happens to the gasoline infrastructure, I can go ahead and make sure that I have enough fuel for each of my vehicles for one full gas tank, right? And then always make sure that your vehicle is topped off as much as possible. So if I'm in town and I see that I'm at 3/4 of a tank or a half of a tank, I go ahead and make sure that I top off my vehicle. For heating fuel, for example, I depend on heating fuel right now. So what do? I make sure that I have at least a 1 year supply extra than what I need for that current winter. So right now, thank goodness, I had the forethought months and months ago to go ahead and get 2 year supply of fuel because I had the capacity in order to store it. So that ended up being a very good move because you all know what happened to the price of diesel and heating fuel. Then what you do, once you have a list of all of the utilities or infrastructures that you depend on, you go ahead and prioritize them. And the reason I say prioritize them is because depending on where you live in the country or in the world, my priority may not equal your priority. So if I were to give you my list, it may not work for you depending on where you live, all right? Because I live in a cold climate area. You may live in Arizona or in Florida where you really may not need heating fuel during the winter, that you can survive without it. Then you go ahead and make a list of all of the things that you use on a regular basis. If you use toothpaste, write it down. If you like Pop-Tarts, write it down. Right? All of those things that you use from the smallest to the biggest, write them down and then prioritize them in the order that you would really need them during a time where you could not get any more of them. For example, medications would probably be on top of my list, on top of the priority list, over-the-counter medications or prescription medications if you have them. So it's all about prioritizing the needs that you know that you will have if something happens, because you know that you have those needs today. And then being able to get a backup for those needs and or infrastructures set in place so that you can have it available to you should you ever lose the availability of that infrastructure that you rely on. I really hope that the way that I said that makes sense. All right. Thank you very much for the email. And again, airborne to you as well, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining in today. I hope you got something out of this. Thank you very much for the questions, and thank you very much for joining in on the live stream. Not sure if this video will come out the day after the live stream. It may come out on Thursday, which is 2 days after I had that live stream, but I'll try to put it out Wednesday evening. Other than that, have a great rest of your week, and we will see you on Friday during our regular live stream, which will be at 2 p.m. Alaska time, 6 p.m. Eastern time, and that is when I will announce, or we will randomly pick, the winner of the Opus 1200 watt solar generator that we were giving away to someone that lives here in Alaska. So if you haven't seen that video, I'll leave it on the upper right hand corner so that you can check it out. And if you do live in Fairbanks or can get to Fairbanks, all right, within a month after I announce the winner, go ahead and watch that video and leave a comment. The instructions are in the video. It's not that long, although it is the longest review video in the world. God bless every one of you, and we'll see you on Friday.